A dog found shot, and it's not the first time it's happened in this Southwest Florida neighborhood. Hear his rescue in a story you'll see only on Fox 4. On the move tonight, the new Southwest Florida community where a potentially deadly worm is now showing up and how you can protect yourself. Who you gonna call? Bug Buster Extraordinaire tonight. The exterminator who can put out fires. Fox 4 News at 10 starts right now.
Live from Southwest Florida's news source, Fox 4 News at 10.
A dog shot in the back found wandering through the streets of Hendry County tonight. He's recovering from surgery at Gulf Coast Humane Society, but his story could have unfolded much differently. 4 in your corners, Lisa Greenberg, with a report you'll see only on Fox 4. How this dog was found and finding out this isn't the first abused dog to come out of this area. Lisa?
Well, that's right, Patrick. Just last month, rescue experts were telling me about a pattern of animal abuse seen in Hendry County where this dog was found with bullet holes in his back.
This sweet boy may look like he's just lounging in the sun, getting scratches from the shelter manager of Gulf Coast Humane Society, but he's weaning off anesthesia, and not from a routine surgery.
He had sustained a gunshot wound.
That's right. This one-year-old dog was shot in the back. The bullet going in one side and out the other. Now a tube inserted to drain the wounds. His hind legs still weak from the drugs.
Not going so good, are they?
We got to him quickly enough, and there's not going to be any problem with infection.
Dr. Sharon Powell is a veterinarian at Gulf Coast Humane Society. She operated on the dog and says luckily the bullet only went through skin. The dog was found wandering in Hendry County, and he's not the first dog rescued from that area after facing abuse. Jimmy was found with wounds so extensive his leg had to be amputated. Alaya didn't survive. She was dragged behind a car. Tammy Henry at Clewiston Animal Control says overpopulation contributes to the abuse.
It contributes to the crime that goes on here because they're just everywhere. They're almost like mice.
Dr. Powell says it's important that if you see an abused dog like this poor guy, don't interfere.
Especially with gunshot wounds. We want to make sure that the public is safe as well, but still try to get the proper people over there to get him help.
Fortunately, the right people found this dog.
All right, upsy-daisy.
Or he would have been at risk of serious infection.
At this time of year, we have a horrible time with insects and flies laying maggots in those wounds, so it could have been a lot worse.
Instead, the happy-go-lucky boy is on his way to recovery with a new name to match his strength.
I think Warrior would be a great name for him. He's going to be a good dog.
And Dr. Powell says she believes Warrior will be ready for adoption within the next week or so. And because of his sweet, outgoing personality, he'd be a great dog for a family. Live in the studio, Lisa Greenberg, Fox 4. In your corner.
All right, thank you, Lisa. If you're a pregnant woman, you're nervous about Zika, you now have the option of getting a free test for the virus. It's a big relief for a lot of women considering Zika has been linked to birth defects in the brain. And there are now 15 people in South Florida who got the virus from local mosquitoes in that Miami area. The governor is saying this free test will be available at all county health departments across Florida. This is coming as doctors said they were forced to ration the test kits recently because there weren't enough of them, saying they had to turn some pregnant women away. In the meantime, 4 in your corners Brian Yenas has more on the rush to find a vaccine for the virus.
Researchers around the world are racing to produce a vaccine for Zika as the Pentagon announces 33 U.S. military members have contracted the mosquito-borne virus, and more than a dozen people in Miami are believed to have become infected from bites.
There's this unprecedented advisory for pregnant women not to avoid the Wynwood district, and that's rocking the community. It reminds us that Zika is not just a public health emergency, it's also an economic one.
Zika is linked with severe birth defects, including microcephaly, a condition which causes a baby to have a smaller than usual skull. The National Institutes of Health announcing Wednesday the launch of a clinical trial of an experimental vaccine. And scientists at MIT are using programmable genetic material to fight Zika.
Important work to be done as it relates to developing vaccines.
Transmission of Zika in the continental U.S. has many state leaders being proactive in prevention with aerial insecticide spraying campaigns, trucks vacuuming stagnant water off the streets, and larvicide being made available to homeowners free of charge.
All these measures taken together will help protect New Yorkers and from the potentially devastating effects of Zika.
The Department of Health is going to work with every state agency to do what they need to do.
Despite the CDC's unprecedented warning urging pregnant women to avoid travel to a specific area in Miami, authorities say they don't expect any major outbreaks in this country. In New York, Brian Yennis.
In the meantime, Fox 4 finding out more about what you can do to minimize your risk of Zika affecting you in Southwest Florida. 4 in your Corner spending some time with a crew from Truly, Nolan, and Lee County. They've been very busy these days. Employees wearing respiratory masks, rubber gloves, and carrying 60-pound mosquito foggers to get the job done. Exterminators are targeting young mosquitoes, and they warn you to keep everything drained on your property to discourage breeding.
Anytime that there's water accumulated on a property, the potential for breeding sites for mosquitoes grows.
Now, the mosquito species that carry Zika has been found in Southwest Florida, but no mosquitoes in our area have actually tested positive for carrying the virus. And we have not reported on any cases or heard of any where people actually have gotten Zika from local mosquitoes. In the meantime, if you've got questions, you can call the state's Zika hotline. It's 855-622-6735. You can also find out more right now on our website. Go to fox4now.com/Zika. 4 in your Corner tracking the tropics for you right now on Fox 4 News at 10. Keeping an eye on Hurricane Earl in the Atlantic. Check out these images taken by hurricane hunters as they flew right through Earl over the Caribbean. You can see a spark of lightning there out in the distance. And then we've got to look at the storm from above the clouds from the hurricane hunters. Beautiful sunset as the sun shines through those clouds left behind there. And this is the projected path of Hurricane Earl, the Category 1 storm expected to make landfall overnight in Belize, threatening to bring some flash flooding and mudslides there. The chief meteorologist for Fox 4, Derek Beasley, in the Storm Shield 4 Weather Center with more on Earl's path. Derek?
That's right, Patrick. Looks like it's going to be making landfall here late tonight after midnight, right near Belize City as it continues tracking westward. And notice we have a big area of thunderstorms that is now trying to wrap around the circulation center. Looks like an eye trying to form here. The hurricane hunters out there doing a flight now and have reported winds around 80 miles per hour. So this thing is likely going to be strengthening a little bit more. Last advisory at 8 o'clock, 75-mile-an-hour sustained winds. This will likely be updated to around 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds at the 11 o'clock advisory. Moving inland overnight and then weakening through the day tomorrow. We'll have your forecast here heading into the weekend coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Derek. 4 in your Corner digging deeper to get you answers after a number of scientific studies show that child cancer rates are soaring among families living south of Lake Okeechobee. And some scientists are saying they're frustrated with the Florida Department of Health, or DOH for short, claiming it's done too little to figure out what's causing the spike in deadly diseases among our kids. 4 in your Corner investigator Warren Wright calling, tweeting, and texting the DOH to get you answers tonight. Warren?
Patrick, not one, but 5 different studies are showing kids in this region have a greater chance of getting cancer than in the rest of the state. Scientists want more funding to do more research to figure out what's causing it. But what they say is the Department of Health is strangely silent on the issue.
I'd say that the state is completely negligent in failing to alert citizens and to follow up on a very serious health threat.
Alan Farrago is with the Friends of the Everglades. He says there is too much to ignore, showing a link between the people living south of Lake Okeechobee and alarming pediatric cancer rates. This map shows in red where children have a 36% greater risk than the rest of the state for contracting cancer. Dr. Raid Amin with the University of West Florida conducted the first study in 2010. He says the Florida Department of Health met with him to discuss the study, but then the state went silent.
Nothing happened at all.
The American Statistical Association was so alarmed by the results, 5 different researchers did their own independent studies. And just last year, the ASA, headed by a professor from Duke University, devoted an entire morning of their symposium poring over the numbers, which continue to point to a health crisis. Dr. David Banks.
Does it concern you that the Florida Department of Health has not done anything with any of this data?
It is a disappointment, yes. It seems to me that there is a public duty to take a warning seriously.
So I wanted to talk to the Florida Health Department about that warning.
There's a lot of research showing a link between high pediatric cancer rates in most of Florida south of Lake Okeechobee. There's been multiple studies showing this link, and we want to know why the state health department has not issued any follow-up studies or warnings.
They said they had no comment at this time, but I kept pressing for an answer.
What does the state intend to do, if anything, regarding the serious questions raised by these peer-reviewed and scientifically verified studies?
There may be a link between Lake O and pediatric cancer, but without further studies, no one can understand what's causing it.
Other scientists who did not want to go on record explained to me that getting funding for research projects has become political. That is, if a powerful lobbyist feels such studies would be a threat, researchers can find themselves frozen out of getting any type of funding. And this coming to me right before our newscast, the DOH sent me an email stating that their team reviewed the data and they do not see any elevated risk of pediatric cancer. Warren Wright, Fox 4. In your corner.
Okay, thank you, Warren. A potentially deadly worm found in Cape Coral previously now being spotted in another part of Southwest Florida. Officials on Sanibel Island alerting people on the island of the New Guinea flatworm. People have reported seeing it on Sanibel now. The flatworm is an invasive species. It was discovered last year in Miami and more recently in Cape Coral, as we reported. The worms may look harmless, but they carry painful diseases like meningitis. And if they infect you, or if you see one, you can report it to FWC right away. You can also kill them, just so you know, by pouring boiling water on those invasive worms. He is supposed to protect you from terrorism, but now an American police officer is accused of helping ISIS. So why did it take 6 years to track him before making an arrest? Crooks whacking their way into this Southwest Florida pizza shop, the unusual weapon they used to get in. But first,
he's a hero. The people who don't want to be called heroes are heroes.
Meet the Cape Coral superhero who doesn't wear a cape now. How an exterminator saved a house from burning down. It's next.